Welcome to another awesome video.
Today we got another treat. We got more radio station broadcast records. We got two new ones today. We got Soundtrack of the 60s and the British Top 30 show. An unusual show about the British Top 30 but targeted to Americans. Soundtrack of the 60s was another ABC watermark production, just like American Top 40. And when you compare these two, it's very obvious they're from the same company. They got a lot of the same DNA. They've got both got this cue sheet, which tells the DJ where to put commercials. They've got the opening calibration tone. They've got the same layout, essentially. What's different about them is the programming, whereas American Top 40 is focused on this week's music. So you're going to hear 80s music. This is also aired in the 80s, but this is looking back to the 60s. So this is an oldies show.
First song was the Beatles' She's a Woman from 1964. Then from 1965, The Last Time by the Rolling Stones. And we wound up with the Temptations hit I Know I'm Losing You from 1966.
Since this wasn't a countdown and the interviews and stuff were all edited in, obviously, it just didn't have the sense of urgency as American Top 40, so, maybe it just wasn't as popular, didn't make it. I'm not
also,
sure.
American Top 40 had that little American Top 40, something like that.
Yeah, American Top 40. This is the same company, ABC Watermark, so this has all those same things. It has those little intros.
This is Gary Owens. Soundtrack of the 60s is heard coast to coast and around the world for 3 hours every week on great radio stations like WERK, Muncie, Indiana.
It just didn't make it. I guess it just didn't have the ratings.
Also, who's this woman on the front?
Well, that's sort of a 60s go-go boots woman. All right,
what are go-go boots?
What's interesting about this record, if you notice on this side at the end, they've got...
Scoot it back a little bit.
They've got two promos at the end here. Then there's this little blank section called the Runout, and then the needle's going to reset. But this record has weird grooves, so it basically will not go to the end because it wants the program to stop so you don't accidentally broadcast the promos during the program. So let's see what happens. All right, so that's the end of the thing. So you'd expect the needle to go over the end and flip back. Notice it's stuck. It's not going anywhere.
No, it's just record crackling.
Well, yeah, because it's got a special groove. So at this point, the DJ would go to another record, but if we move past that just a little bit, we'll get to the promos. Now this is the promo for whatever's in the countdown that week. That was one for the Moody Blues.
What year was that?
Hi, this is Gary Owens, and this week on Soundtrack of the 60s, we talk with Beatles movie producer Walter Shenson.
There's a movie?
Allow this picture to look like a plastic movie.
The Hard Day's Night. A Hard Day's Night.
If I had.
Probably won't be able to play that because of the copyright stuff. So there was one Moody Blues promo. I sort of skipped over that, and then the Beatles. And then after that, it will, I think, go to the end and do what you would normally expect. I guess that's some sort of safety feature there. So that, I don't know why they stuck them at the end of side 2B, but that's how they do the promos. Our next countdown is the British Top 30 show, which has these cool sunglasses. And they use a letter numbering scheme, A through F, unlike the American Top 40, which use, 1A, 1B, whatever.
It's not built by the same company.
No, this is a different company. This is Radio Luxembourg, which is interesting because the British government has a lot of restrictions. Like, for example, over there, you had to have a license to have a television at some point. Anyway, they had restrictions on...
Is that gone now?
I don't know. They had restrictions on radio broadcasts. So there was this movie that came out that documented the pirate radio ships of the 60s. So Luxembourg is, radio waves don't obey borders. So...
The countdown begins of this week's British Top 30. A new entry at number 30, and it comes from one of those supergroups put together specially to raise funds for Ethiopia. They're called Starvation.
This show is produced by Radio Luxembourg to educate Americans on the British Top 30. So you got British DJs and American commercials. So we have the countdown, and then you'll hear this very proper British DJ.
In the charts.
But then you've got some very obviously American commercials like this one for oil filters.
Their filters more, saving a buck for the grocery store, making sure they use the best parts they might, because if you're gonna do it right.
Get to it.
So yeah, so we have a record produced in Luxembourg with British DJs targeted to Americans with American commercial.
This is so weird.
Yeah.
Do it right, America, with Purolator.
Hi, this is Catherine Bach from the...
We also have PSAs that are very American, like this one from Catherine Bach of the Dukes of Hazzard.
Boss hog, but I'll tell you who you can't fool, and that's your body. If you don't feed it right, you're going to feel it. So pay
Basically,
attention
she's
to
saying
what you
don't
eat.
go to McDonald's
Plan a
every day of your
well-balanced
life.
diet,
Yes.
high in nutrients and low in empty calories. For more information about good nutrition, write the Will Rogers Institute, White Plains, New York.
It's got the countdown, sort of like American Top 40, but in addition to that, it's also got, new songs that may be entering the countdown, new artists, and also just news and trivia.
Now then, if Princess Diana hasn't started screaming yet about the amount of time her husband is spending on the polo fields of England, it's sure that she soon will, because from Saturday of this week, Prince Charles is down to play this rather tedious sport for 9 consecutive days. Yeah, and the princess, of course, would like Charles at home, where there are chores needing his attention, not least of which is the garden. For the Wales family have just parted company with the chief gardener there. The fellow apparently walked off in a huff after receiving one too many instructions from the new plant expert, Prince Charles. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? And staying on the subject of the royal family, well, the Queen has been sent a warning letter by a credit company for falling behind on HP payments.
So American Top 40 and Rick D's Weekly Top 40 are still around. Rick D's is on the air, and I think Ryan Seacrest does this.
Because Casey Kasem's dead.
Yeah. Well, these two didn't make it. Why didn't they make it? Well,
Not enough popularity?
I think that's it. Like Soundtrack of the 60s, from what I understand, aired weekly from 1981 to 1984. Except, like I said, it wasn't a countdown. It was about oldies. And, I guess they were trying to extend their American Top 40 formula to other markets. I think there's maybe a country Top 40 also. British Top 30, could not find a lot of information about this. Probably, we had the second British invasion, Duran Duran, all the British groups that became popular. Maybe they were trying to piggyback on that. I feel like they didn't get enough advertising. So I have one from April and one from July, and they're still advertising wine coolers and oil filters and some public service announcements. So there's not a lot of advertising. It's also very rough around the edges. They couldn't play all the songs. I feel like they just didn't maybe get enough momentum to get going. But anyway, there's some very obscure countdown records from the 80s. So all these records were broadcast over the air. Who knows who heard the grooves on these records in the 80s. But anyway, that's about it, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time for another awesome video.
This first hour on the British Top 30 show, some great music from people like the Pasty McCall, New England.
I'm not looking for New England. Are you looking for another girl?
Howard Jones. Starvation. David Essex.
But now we're falling, angels riding into the night.
And The Alarm. Absolute reality. Just some of the great music you'll be hearing on this first hour on the British Top 30.